how many of you guys are interested in knowing how to beat the YouTube algorithm, the Twitter algorithm, and the, what else is there? Instagram algorithm? Just show of hands, please. So some of you are not interested at all? Little bit curious? Little? Okay, awesome. So I'll tell you a very interesting backstory between me and Raj, right? So I remember first meeting Raj on a WhatsApp group. So one of the influencers, I don't remember who that person was, just put all of us in a group, if you remember. You did?
I did it. Yeah.
Okay, Raj did it. I think he just like DM'd me and said, "Hey, why don't we want to make a group of influencers? Can you like jump on?" I said, "Okay." And that was my first interaction with Raj. At that point, Raj was at about 130K followers on Instagram.
Yeah.
I remember this very clearly. He had close to 0 followers on Twitter. He had nothing on YouTube. YouTube wasn't even like, he didn't even start on YouTube. And in 6 months after that, I think Raj went full-time into creating content. I think you were part-time back then, right? You were doing like multiple things. Raj went full-time, almost full-time into creating content. And today he's sitting at like 1 million followers on Instagram. He's sitting at like 400K on YouTube. He's sitting at 130K on Twitter. Here's an interesting piece of news. There is very less overlap between these 3 different platforms in terms of the audience for Raj. And same for me, right? Like when I met Raj at that point, I had like 20,000 followers on Instagram and that's it. Today, my cumulative is sitting at like about 400K, right, across platforms. And as we have kind of grown together, and Raj obviously is doing this full time, he's grown like much faster. He's learned so many different things about that platform or the 3 different platforms. And today I just want to like pick your brains and also kind of share my experiences, what's worked, what's not worked. Yep. And I think the best place to start is what happened when you added me to the group and you were at 100K. How did you hit like a mil?
So the sweet story is that most of the people don't know that I was entrepreneur first and then content creator. Most of the people know me as content creator, right? And the reality was that I was doing an offline business where I had like a lot of distributors and I wanted to expand my business. But when you do an offline FMCG business, there's a limit to it. Like you can't go tomorrow morning and beat Unilever, right? How can you go pan India? What can you do? There has to be a lot of innovation. So I wanted to do pan India. And I thought, what can be one thing which I am good at? And for me, that was storytelling. So that was my way to actually get to know the entire India, so that once everybody knows me, then probably I can build another product or a platform or something so that I can market. That was a strategy. This is why I started creating content. And when you enter with this goal that you want to go on Instagram, not because you're a content creator, but because you want to reach like 1 million people, and you want to do that because you want to promote your products at the end of the day. I started planning a lot. Like everything for me, the content, the game I was playing, I was running it like a startup. So with my people used to say that this is the content piece which is working. For me, that was like product market fit. When people used to say that, oh, this is one thing which is really different and best for Raj, I used to call it moat. So how we have different things in startups, I used to treat my content in the same way. And that, I think 3 or 4 things which I started doing helped me a lot. Okay. Now, one thing which worked out really well for me, this might sound a little off on Instagram, is everybody, they share content which makes them feel smart. So I would share some, let's say, a joke or some information or some educational thing or some thought which I saw it on someone else's feed or some content, only when I feel that, hey, you know what? This is making me smart when I put it on my feed. So that in my social circle, when everybody else is seeing it, I feel कि Raj ऐसा सोचता है, that's why Raj is putting it out. Right? That's all we share. The jokes which are extremely funny, which we feel that this gives a little status in the circle of like our social circle, we put that up. And I figured that out that everybody does the same thing. So I started creating content which gave people a reason to share and made them feel good. So there were certain things which people would not talk about. And I would talk about that just so that they share it more. And that's how you create shareable content. It's not that I come up with a specific topic or I try to come up with some educational problem solving things. All of that is, obviously that's science, that's everybody's doing it. One thing is, if you figure out a way that your content is making other person feel smart, then they would share a lot. And that was the strategy which worked out best for me.
Yeah. So I remember I was writing an article about the YouTube algorithm, right? And this is just for myself because I was reading one of the YouTube research papers. So they put out 2 research papers, one in 2016 and one in 2019. I don't remember the exact dates. And both were talking about this same kind of algorithm. But I wanted to be doubly sure. So I texted like 5 of the top YouTubers in India. Like you probably know almost all of them. Then I also texted Raj and I was like, hey, I'm doing an article on this. And Raj was very big on Instagram at that point. And I was like, what's working for you? And I'll tell you the gist of it. It's all about retention. It's all about retention. And Raj is like, especially because he's creating Instagram Reels, which is like a minute long at max. At that point, it was 30 seconds. He's like, hold them for the first 6 seconds.
Yeah.
That was Raj's thing. He was like, bro, the science of this is just hold them for 6 seconds. You're done. Anything. You want to dance for the first 6 seconds? Do it. You want to jump off a cliff for the first 6 seconds? Do it. Right? In fact, I made an ad. I was just like testing stuff out. So I made a post where I pretended to fall in the first 6 seconds. Right? And that had like one of the highest retention. The retention of that reel, which I brought up back then, was like 96% or something like that. Right? So it's incredible that attention has become how YouTube, TikTok, etc. just kind of look at platforms.
The other thing, this we had talked about a lot. Most of the people think that they have to create an absolute beast kind of content in order to go viral, or in order to like get numbers, in order to get followers, right? The strategy is to hold them for first 6 seconds, because this is how the algorithm works. If you make people stay for 6 seconds, the algorithm pushes you beyond your followers. And that's all we want. We want other people who are not following us, we want to be on their explore so that we can reach more people. So the game is only of 6 seconds. Now what most people do is they start with a build up. They start with, hey, this is what I'm going to tell you, or this is what the thing is. This is what you should know.
Like and those Bollywood horror movies.
Yeah,
the first
build
1 minute, first 10 minutes, you don't know what's going on.
Yeah, they don't know, and they are just building up because they feel that if I tell them the crux in the beginning, then what's the point? Why will anybody watch it? But the game is that if you don't tell the crux in the beginning, nobody's going to watch it. So I start with this. If you look at most of my content, the most banger line is in the start. And then the content is built up. The most hurtful line, or the most challenging line, or the most thought-provoking idea is in the first 3 or 6 seconds. If you crack that out, then only then people watch it till the end. So don't build up, go direct, like directly go straight up. In fact, in my content, I don't even say like, this is the most important thing which I've learned. I don't say it like this. I directly tell you what I learned, because that helps me retain people, and that was the 6-second rule which we followed.
Yeah, and turns out on YouTube it's the same, right? Like Mr. Beast has gone. Mr. Beast, by the way, is at this point one of the largest YouTubers, gonna beat PewDiePie in a bit as well. And Mr. Beast says, and he was on a Clubhouse session, right? I remember Sriram K was hosting Mr. Beast on this Clubhouse session, and I was just listening in. And he was like, the thing about YouTube is that intro is everything. If your intro is even like 1 second longer, there's a big chance you won't make it to the explore page or the discover page, right? And he's like, the way we shoot videos is, if it's a lot of large YouTubers will recommend you not to do YouTube live streams in the beginning, because what happens is with live streams, after the live stream is over, it's just going to be a video on your YouTube channel. People are going to click on it. First 10 seconds, you're waiting for people to jump on the live stream, right? So you're just like, hey guys, just waiting for people. That's it. You're never, if somebody randomly lands on that video, they're never coming back. Right? So it's about mercilessly like focusing on the intro. What about the body?
What about the YouTube body? Let's complete Instagram first, then we go to YouTube, then we go to Twitter. And so one good thing about, I think, Varun, my content is that if you look at our Instagram and YouTube, there are 2 different kind of content pieces. I don't create the same kind of content on both the platforms. If you look at Twitter, it's completely different as well. So every platform has a different content, and we're working, like everything is working right now. And let's talk about the body. This is the one good thing which works out very well on Instagram. Now, this again might sound off. This is what is going on in the recent, like all the people who have blown up recently. The first thing, the first 10 seconds, you have to make your customer feel stupid. It sounds bad, but this is how it works. If you've seen those Erica videos, you're like, hey, you know what? For example, I lost my Nikes, but I don't know how to do next, like what to do next. Erica reads these lines for me so that I don't have to read it. Anybody has watched those videos? Erica videos? Yeah. Anybody has seen Finance with Sharan? Yeah. Yeah. Right. So this is what Sharan does. In the beginning, he'll just be completely stupid. So this is what is working. You tell your customers that, hey, you're stupid. Then you tell them, this is the solution. देखो अब मैंने solution बता दिया ना, follow me. This works really well. That's why you'll see a lot of people are doing the dual thing. Because one person is stupid, one person is smart, and the third person, like the first person comes in again and say, now follow me. Right? That is working out well. So think about, if you all are entrepreneurs, I'm just assuming that if you want to create content for your product, put this target audience in your head and make sure that what is the first line which would offend this person. What is this first line which would offend my target audience? What is the first line which will make my target audience feel like really stupid? Because if it won't challenge or make them feel stupid, they won't stay. If you tell them something which they already know, no matter how good that is, they won't stay at all. Because the attention span has not reduced, but the ability to judge the content has reduced drastically. Like people will watch a 1 hour podcast as well. People are there who are loving it, 5 hour Netflix series as well. But before they pick on the 5 hour Netflix series, they're going to test at least 50 series before that. Ye kaun sa dekho, kaun sa dekho, kaun sa dekho. That's the same thing with Instagram. So the first line should be really challenging. That's one. The second should be, here's the problem. Third is the solution. And the fourth thing is, follow me now for more, because if you want to be if you want to be intelligent, follow me for more.
Guys, I just wanted to draw your attention. You guys are doing this an amazing job at full-time right? A whole bunch of us probably wouldn't have that kind of bandwidth or the attention. Could you run us through a way of doing this as a system? I don't know what kind of team, system, setup, whatever we could build to really do this without being able to do it full-time.
True. So my only objective to do this, I told you, right? Entrepreneur first. Even now, right now, I'm focusing on building another D2C company while doing all of this, because the objective is only to build distribution, because it's not the end game. And because I was doing all of this, my thought was, how can I just give 1 hour or 2 hours a day or a week, and then the rest of the week is sorted. And Varun is the same thing. Varun follows this thing
we
right now.
We need to get this playbook, please.
Yeah, by the way, I don't do this full time. Like for me, and I keep complaining to Raj about this.
Scenes,
like,
of course.
I'm like, dude, I run a company, I've got employees, I've got to be there. And at the same time, I've got to do this. Otherwise, I'm going to become irrelevant, right? So the system that's worked for me, and this is not the same system that Raj uses, I batch produce all my content. Like everyone on my team knows this. December 24th, 25th, 26th of last year, I sat down, produced 100 videos for YouTube. I'm doubling down on one channel, right? YouTube, because I can't do too many. Twitter is easy. Twitter, I just go and shitpost, right? And you can only, by the way, you cannot start an account on Twitter shitposting. We'll come to that in a bit. You can do it at scale, but if you start doing it, you're not going to get any followers, right? So you got to do serious stuff, and then we'll come to that later. But what I do is, I did 110 videos. They're still running right now. And, we've now been cutting that down to shorts. That's all not me. That's my editors doing it. I talk to them once in 3 months, right? Once in 4 months. So the entire thing for me is a part-time operation, and anybody can do it. I'll tell you what the hard part is of batch producing 100 pieces of content. It's writing them down first, right? You can't go in front of a camera or whatever and just start talking, because then you produce low retention content. Your intro isn't going to be great. It's worthless. Like for me now, to go do a live stream where, nobody's going to see the live stream, or the retention is low, or the intro is poor, is a waste of my time. I'm going to get I can show you my stats if I could present it or something. The videos where my intro is poor, or I've done a boring live stream, I get 2 subscribers. I'd just rather not do content, right? Whereas the banger videos pull me 9,000, 10,000 subscribers, right? So it's, I'd rather do many more of those, and I just batch produce everything.
Okay, so I have a different system, because I don't create content at all. And sounds funny, but I genuinely don't create content at all. And I told you, right? So this was the goal, that how can I just spend 1 or 2 hours in a week and then do nothing at all. So what I came up with, that I have built prompters in my team. So prompters are the people who ask questions. They get hired just to ask me questions. That's it. They do nothing at all. Just ask me questions. So there's a girl who asks me questions for Twitter. There's a girl who asks me a question for YouTube, and there's a guy who asks me a question for Instagram. Once every week, we sit down in my podcast room. We sit down in our studio. They asked me five questions, which I've told them. What are the 5 questions which you feel are gonna work like a good piece of videos? Let's say, don't come and ask me, Raj, what's going on? But ask me, in your 20s, how did you invest? Like, because that can be a great piece of content for my audience. So everybody, all 3 people, they have 5 questions to ask. They ask me those questions, I answer those, and then we record it just like we're recording right now. Like he's recording. Chetan, say hi. Yeah, see? So he's recording. We'll put this we'll cut it down. He's going to give it to the editors. Editors will cut it down, and then we'll post it throughout the week. So, yeah. Okay, so I tell you.
He posts a story and he says, hey, I need people to ask me questions. Advantage of reach.
Yeah, I'll tell you how do we get them. So it's a trial and error, but this is how I judge people. So I hire people based on 3 qualities: competence, commitment, and culture. So first is I try to test their competence. Competence is, do they have the same kind of knowledge and the stuff which we are working on? Do they have the skills to ask the right questions? Do they have the motive to actually work with me? Do they possess the traits? Because if someone who's not confident, is not punctual, would not work with us. And the last is self-motive. Like, what is their self-motive? Why do they want to do anything? So these are the 5 things where I judge the competence of a person. Because if they're not competent, what's the point? The competency is usually judged on what kind of industry you are in. So we ask very blatant questions. Upfront, we'll ask them latest startup news. If they can answer that, then they're hired most of the times. Because if they are keeping up with the startup world, if they're keeping up with the investment world, then they're hired. That's first. Second is commitment, okay? That you have to actually judge over time. You cannot judge on day one. So usme to gut feeling se trust karke lena padta hai. Usme there's no other thing. And third is culture. Culture is, can I vibe with these people? Because you have to understand that if these people are going to ask me questions for 1 hour, I need to be able to, tolerate them for 1 hour. If I can't vibe with them, there's no point of hiring them, because they're going to ask me questions for 1 hour, and there are going to be days where out of 1 hour, only 2 minutes of that is going to be relevant and which will go on my Instagram. So the best thing is, find out someone who's really obsessed about your industry. Find out this person who can ask insane amount of questions. We all have seen those people in our colleges, right? There's like 2 or 3 kids who sit on the front bench. They don't do anything. They just ask you questions. Before you finish your work, they have questions. So hire those kids to, actually ask you questions. You're that kid. See, you're already doing it. He can be a great prompter, guys. Yeah, their full-time job is to ask questions. So they have to screen YouTube ideas. They have to go through, let's say, Varun's post, Ranveer's post, Gary Vee's post, Ankur's post, and they see what's working for them. And then based on that, they go to my post as well, and they see my comments. What are people asking? Combination of both, they ask me questions based on that. Once in every week. That's it. That's their job. And now, because I felt like because people are getting too comfortable in their job and they don't have enough work to do, I've given them the responsibility to come up with titles as well. So they come up with the questions and they come up with the post-production titles as well. Ki this is what will make them click.
Varun, you have a different playbook there.
Yeah, my strategy is slightly different, by the way. I just hire Raj's old editors. Right? If he's done all this hard work, I just call him like, do you have anyone extra? I don't have the time to interview them. And Raj always follows through, right? He's like, dude, you should hire this guy, he's great. And to be honest, like half my, like the editing team and the, creative team is like old people from Raj's team.
Are these people on LinkedIn? Can we post them?
Are they what?
Are these people on LinkedIn as people who do? How do you find them? Where do you find them?
So because I thought this is a great problem, I thought I'll start a service for founders to help them build their brands, where the founder will only give 1 hour a week and then I'll handle everything else. I'll build their profile on Twitter, on Instagram, on YouTube. Then I realized that the biggest problem which we're trying to solve, that founders don't have time, they can't give time, is actually a problem because they can't even give 1 hour. Every week, you have to force them to actually get in the zone of answering questions because they don't. And that becomes like a challenge. That's why I stopped this service. But for everyone else who is looking out for editors, who is looking out for content writers, who are looking for freelancers, feel free to get in touch with me, because my head of production, now he left me and we co-founded a company together where he's providing editors and videographers and writers to everyone like me. So what I do, I show him देख मेरे को ऐसा content चाहिए. He'll find me the relevant person, and in 6 months, typical like an HR company, in 6 months, if that guy fucks up, he replace that guy and give me someone else. And then after end of 6 months, he's gonna take like a 15-day salary from me. And it's working out brilliantly because we have served, I think now 35 or 40 content creators already.
This keeps the editorial control with you while the hard work is being done by people.
Yes.
In your case, Varun, you're doing it slightly differently.
Yeah,
So who prepares your scripts?
Yeah, to be honest, I don't think that, I mean, that works for some level of scale, right? You could probably get to like 15K Twitter followers, maybe like 15, 20K people on YouTube, unless you're like a super famous founder, right? Like if you did that for Kunal Shah, then that would work better. But the average founder, it's not going to work. See, the thing is, if I come to an event like this, right, I might have people who follow me who will come to me and say, hey, Varun, I love your content. Because I've built that relationship with them. And I feel like unless you are willing to put in the time to like build a relationship with those people, it's never going to work. And for Raj also, right? Like when he does this, he's really thinking about how can I improve people how can I increase the number of people who watch this? How can I build deeper brand connections between them and me? And I don't think founders think about that all the time. They have their business to work on, right? And I find the same challenge every day, by the way.
So that's precisely, he's doing it to build a distribution play eventually. Yeah. You're doing it for your own additional motivations beyond just getting an audience.
Exactly.
And that's precisely what we're talking about here, because today, to get talent to be interested in your company is not easy.
Yeah.
And that's where this topic was that, if a founder isn't spending that kind of insane money on recruiting, if you were to invest that kind of money or probably some proportion of it in the personal branding side of things with the amount of content effort it's investing, it might just be amazingly
but it's harder. It's like significantly harder. Like it's far easier for you to go to a large content creator and say, hey, post something about this. Just say, hey, we're hiring for this role. And that's probably going to do better for you than you spending now 1 year committing to that, saying I'm going to produce X number of pieces of content.
Absolutely.
Yeah, here I have a slightly different opinion. If you're a founder, this doesn't mean that you need like millions of followers or thousands of followers. You can have like 10,000 followers and absolutely get like a killer team to work for you just out of those followers. Because here's the thing, that most of the people, most of the employees, they are confused about their growth map. They're confused about their value system. They're confused about what does my leader want? मैं क्या कर रहा हूँ? And if these are the things which founder can come up and openly tell in the public, then people would join you. Like, I'll tell you, there was this one podcast which I was doing, and where I said, somebody asked me like, don't you feel that you hang out with your competition? Because there was a post, like me and Ranveer, we were hanging out, and Ranveer's run podcast as well. And they said, you promote your competitors, you hang out with your competitors, what's the point? And I said, these people are not my competitors. Okay. I don't see that Varun is my competitor. I feel that IIM and IITs are my competitor. It's me, Varun, Ranveer, Ankur, Rachna, all of us together versus IIM and IITs. It's not, and I tell you why, because we all are in a game of education, right? I don't want only 60 people 1 year to get educated in the world's top band, at the world's top place. I want education to be accessed by everyone else. This is just a simple insight which I said. And that's why my podcast, Figuring Out, we're trying to build world's largest candid conversation university. So I just made it fun. There was this some guy who was working with NMIMS for 15 years. He called me up. He's like, I had your number. This was the thing. I want to join you. I am ready to work for free for next 2 years because I really feel that this is what is possible. I was like, ye kahan se ho gaya? Like, I can't even pay you. I can't do anything. And he convinced me for actually 3 months to like just hire him and let him help me, because he says that I think we can build something bigger together. So if you put out things and you put out your values, if you put out what you say out loud, there are people listening, they will come and join you. It doesn't matter whether you have like 1,000 followers or 1,000,000 followers at all. The game is about putting out your values. The game is not about getting followers.
As a lot of people here who are trying to hire teams might agree, it's getting increasingly hard. So we're in a B2B SaaS space. To get people who understand retention is hard, which is why we're doing all of this education play. And likewise, across technology, across different segments, it's super hard, which is where we at least are convinced that building a great founder brand might just be the right way to bring the right kind of people together. And like you said, it doesn't have to be millions of followers. I might just need 20,000 of people who are relevant for me. So the system to create that is where, I've got some answers for sure.
Yeah. See, the system is, I feel most of the founders need to be authentic rather than trying to go massy. And that's where the problem is. what we all see is that, oh, Gary Vee, let me do something exactly what he's doing. But we need to get this ensure that first Gary started with wine, then he started with books, then he went on to digital media.
I think it's the same with all of us, by the way. We all started super niche.
Super niche,
Like I did a
exactly.
course called Meta Startup where I was like, I'm going to teach people what cap tables are. Raj started with his like family biz and you know what that's going to be doing.
Hardcore family biz. I actually started creating content on what large corporations can learn from small businesses. Like nobody would want to listen to that. Right?
And by the way, that has a TAM. Like the TAM of like doing hardcore niche content. Maybe if I start making content for engineers, right, and said I'm going to teach people how to code, that's going to have a TAM in India of just me giving gyan of maybe 200, 300K. Whereas if I start making content about, hey, you should leave your home and go to hostel and learn stuff, that has a TAM of now 10 mil, right? So it's like very intentional that, you know, all these content creators eventually start diluting themselves after they hit 100K. That's why when like somebody tells me, oh, Ankur's doing this sort of content or Raj is doing this sort of content, I'm like, no. If you don't do that sort of content, you are going to fall, right? You'll end up being niche for the rest of your life.
Yeah. So one thing I want to talk about, that there are phases of content creation, right? And I think everybody should know this if anybody wants to build their brand. First, you become a nano influencer, that is under 10,000. Then you become a micro influencer, that is like 100K. Then you become a macro influencer, that's like 500K. Then you become a mini celebrity, that's like 1 million or something. And then you become like a celebrity, right? So when you're a celebrity, people want to see kya tumne khaya, kahan rahe, tumhari billi ne potty kari ki nahi kari. Like all of that bullshit people want to know, right? Because there are vlogs and people have gone crazy, people want to watch that. But that's at the point of celebrity. Most of the people make this mistake that Gary is a celebrity. People want to see him walking around and just say, hey, what's up, buddy? At 10K, nobody want to watch you. Like, nobody's going to watch you do that. Like, nobody. So, figure that out at what phase you are in. And every phase, you need to just go a little broader. You need to start with super niche. Then you hit 10K. Then you go to 100K, thoda broad. Then you go 100K. So, with me, it was family business people. Then I started with creating business content, like 3 daily news of business content, 3 things to do daily. And then I started motivation. And now I've gone, like with motivation also, first I started about hard things, business motivation, crypto and all of that. And now I go extremely broad where I talk about appearance, mental health, and just like daily lifestyle of people.
Yeah, you can see when a content creator has become big when his comments are now filled with, bro, I love the old you are generic now. Right? But unfortunately, it's what you got to do with scale. Otherwise, you're going to be stuck. By the way, there's a very interesting way you could keep both. Like you can eat your cake and have it too, right? And the way to do that is to split among platforms. Like here's what I did on Twitter, by the way. And I don't know if you guys have seen me when I was small on Twitter. I went and put up a post saying, hey, what are the best React Native agencies in India? And people gave me a list. I clicked on each of those agencies, looked at everyone following them. If it even said React Native or engineer in their profile, I'd go hit follow. And by the way, I had a blue tick back then, right? So once I followed like, say 200 or 300 of those people, like if you're an engineer and you have like 200 followers in itself and you see like a blue tick following you, you'll follow back. You'll be like, I want to know what this is about. And literally my first, let's say from 20K to like 50K, all my posts were very heavy engineering related. Because I wanted people, or these engineers who I wanted to hire, I needed to hire them. I wanted them to know that, boss, I know what I'm talking about. This is my personality here. Whereas at the same time on Instagram, I was doing very, very generic content, right? So it allowed me to kind of build that shield. And what happens is if, let's say 200 engineers follow you and they like your tweet, their friends are going to see it. The way Twitter works is insane. Like we should have like an entire conversation about that, right? If I like your tweet, I don't need to retweet it. I don't need to do anything. If I like your tweet, it's going to appear on my followers' feeds, right? So if your engineer friends, or say you're an engineer with like 100 followers, and you like my tweet because it's going to be some engagement pot related to, let's say, React Native sucks, whatever, right? It could be anything. Then their friends are going to see it. Those guys are going to follow me, and slowly you build an engineering crowd. I would estimate I have about 10,000 engineers following me in India right now on Twitter. On YouTube, it would probably be like, I don't know, 300, 400. So you can separate it by platform.
One last thing I want to say, that every platform, one thing, if you could figure out what to do in order to create content on a platform, right? So on Instagram, figure out a way how you can create a content which gets shared, because Instagram algorithm promotes people who are getting shared again and again. That's what they want. On YouTube, figure out a way how you can retain people for watch time, because YouTube promotes people who can hold their audience for longer time. Okay. And Twitter, the third is Twitter. Twitter is just keep posting. It's a quantity game more than a quality game. If you bombard on Twitter, like you post 100 tweets a day, your reach is still gonna be great. You're not gonna face any problem. Because Twitter has the same logic that we want people to stay on our platform longer than any other platform. That's why threads work the most. So think about when you're creating content on all these platforms, think about these three things, and I think most of the problems will get solved automatically.
Or hire the editors that you're recommending.
Yeah. No, hire. See, I tell you, there's a WhatsApp group in my company which says tweets only. So all our team, when we are jamming and somebody says like some good thing, somebody will just tweet it. Oh, Raj ne bola tha bahut acha tha. Manav ne bola tha acha tha. Chetan ne
They
bola
all
tha
have
acha tha.
access.
Yeah, they all have access, and most of the people would just WhatsApp it. So on WhatsApp, then my social media manager would go through it. All the things which make sense, they're gonna get scheduled. So make like a tweet-only group in your organization with your hardcore team. Every time you're saying something, somebody should just text it on WhatsApp, because that's the best strategy. That's how we come up with content on Twitter. We still have, I think, 100 tweets pending, so I don't have to worry about next month. That's a great thing.
Yeah, I have a question to everyone. How many of you are like B2B founders? A decent amount. Do you think like, I don't know, becoming a mini influencer on Twitter or whatever makes sense to you guys? If some of you can answer it. Yeah? Why would you?
Marketers, so of course it helps because it helps simply from a customer acquisition and trust building. We've had that conversation right before you, where trust and education is a big win. Now B2B companies are supposed to be media companies, so by all means.
Yeah. So here's one paradoxical thing we learned, right? So when we started Scenes, it was a B2C company, right? Because when you're B2C, your product evolves much faster. You get direct consumer feedback. And then when we said, okay, let's start doing pilots with B2B companies, the one thing we did not expect, actually two things we didn't expect was, A, if me on Twitter with like X number of followers, like 80K, 70K followers posts about Scenes, and let's say your engineer likes it, and you follow the engineer and you're a B2B business, or you're somebody that might want Scenes, you'll call me or you'll send me a DM, right? This has happened with us in WebEngage, for example, right? It's happened with many other companies where, because of the way Twitter works and the way these network effects work, me posting something and someone from your team liking it or interacting with it anyway gets your attention, which is what I want, right? In fact, our last round happened exactly like this. One person saw it, then they called the next VC and blah, 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 and so on and so forth. You guys know how rounds work, right? So I found that even if you're a B2B business, having reach works. And worst case scenario, people might not take a meeting with me, the entrepreneur, but they will definitely take a meeting with me, the content creator, and sometimes vice versa. They might not take a meeting with me, the content creator, but they'll take a meeting with me, the entrepreneur. So it's like, it's really paradoxical, and it just goes to show you that humans work the same, whether you're doing B2B or B2C.
So I feel it doesn't matter whether you're B2B or B2C. At the end of the day, we work, like we all are in like a status-driven society. If you have little status, people would want to give time to you. So this is now like a modern day validation for people. Oh, I have X number of followers.
It's the modern day Mercedes.
Yeah, it's the modern day Mercedes. Like the blue tick is the modern day Mercedes now. So if you have a blue tick, if you have like 10K followers or 20K followers, doesn't matter whether you're B2B, B2C or XYZ, whatever, you would get time of other people and other people would want to talk to you. So it's just go out there and build a brand, because soon enough that every CEO or every top management person would have to become a content creator, either by choice or they'll just be forced to do so.
And I'll
Because
also tell
that's
you
the
one
best way to
thing
do it.
very interesting, right? Even the funding right now, venture funding, if you look like just from what I know, right? It's starting to move into founders who already have distribution. I've seen this multiple times now. I saw this with BlueLearn. I saw this with, I've seen it with like 4-5 companies. In fact, PhysicsWallah is the best example of this, right? Just one round, 100 million. They had a massive YouTube channel. Turns out reach is golden.
Yeah.
And if you have reach, you have and distribution and your GTM. And today it's easy to build features, right? It's easy. I mean, sure, it might be hard for people to hire engineers in the beginning, but once you can get them, or you can just throw money at them and you build a product, you can just clone the biggest product out there. If you have 10 times the reach of that other product, you're golden, right? So even venture is pushing money there. So eventually, even being a funded founder, you'll probably have to have distribution and reach.
Yes, and I was just say last thing that I was talking to one of the founders recently at an event, and I told them that startup has 2 phases. Okay, one is profitability, but that's a later stage. before profitability is a narrative. What narrative do you build about your startup? That's going to decide how much funding you're going to get, how you're going to get perceived, what's the scenario, how your product is going to perform and everything, right? Till the time you reach profitability. Narrative can be controlled if you have a personal brand. And that is why every founder should have a brand. Because if you control your own narrative, then you can control it till the time you actually make profits. And once you have profits, then तो ठीक है, कुछ ज़रूरत ही नहीं है, दुनिया तुमको बात करेगी तुम्हारे बारे में. So just control your narrative, and that's it. That's my time.